What is the internet? In this lecture, we're going to look at sort of the basic definition of the internet and the World Wide Web. And I'm going to give you some tips for fixing your speed issues and also just when the internet is not working. Okay, so first, what is the internet? The internet is a global network of computers and computer networks that use common protocols to connect billions of devices. I remember a time not too long ago when each manufacturer had sort of their own equipment, and they even had their own network protocols, and there were different network protocols, and they wouldn't talk with each other. So if you bought IBM, your company vested with IBM equipment, and you sort of did everything that way. If you did Apple, you went that direction. And then the internet was invented, and it was a series of common communication protocols that these devices could use that allowed them to all talk together no matter what the manufacturer was. Okay? Let me show you a fantastic graphic here. This is from Infopedia.com. And this website is a map of the entire backbone of the internet. Okay, and so you really begin to see how cities are connected with the internet, like a massive. Well, we call it an information superhighway. It's literally it's like an interstate system or something. And you can see Atlanta there. And but the more I zoom out, you just see how vast this network system is. Okay, even goes under the ocean. Of course, it goes via satellite as well. Okay, but these are massive underwater fiber optic networks that connect literally the entire internet. Now, why is it important to know that when even just to work on your internet? Well, let me show you this next graphic here, and you'll sort of see. First of all, for fixing your internet, it's important to know a little bit about that. You've got these massive core, the internet core, right, that goes around the world. But then you've got your own little home network that connects to it, okay? And so your internet problems could happen at any of these spots, okay? It could be that website that you're trying to connect to. It could be something in the main internet itself, okay? Or the connection that you're connecting through. Or it could be your local internet service provider. Your problem when you say, oh, my internet's broken, sometimes it's just in your own home or even on your own computer. And so the first step in figuring out your internet problem is figuring out exactly where that internet trouble is happening. So, for instance, do you remember in a previous lecture the most important troubleshooting tip? You remember what that was? Have you tried turning it off and on again? That little power switch. Well, what do you need to reboot to fix your internet? Well, it depends on what the problem is. Maybe it's not the internet's problem. Maybe it's a problem with your computer. Or maybe it's a problem with your network device there in your house, right? That creates your little tiny network, your modem or your router, or the modem is the connection to the internet that you have, okay? And so the first step in fixing your internet is to figure out exactly where the problem resides. So, have you tried turning it off and on again? First, rebooting just your device. Maybe it's your TV that's having trouble connecting. How can you know if it's your device or your local internet or the wider internet? Well, first of all, will one device work but another one will not work? So when you're having internet problems, maybe your smart TV or one computer is not working, you can ask yourself, well, if one of them is working, you're almost certain that it's not the internet as a whole, right? If one device is working, you're almost sure that it's not your internet service provider's problem. So if only one or just a few devices are working, or even if all of them are not working, but one is working, you know probably it's not your internet service provider, more than likely. More than likely, it's your devices or your little local network. So you can try rebooting your device. You can also try rebooting your router or your local area network device, okay, your switch. Your router, a lot of times in a home, it's just a single device. Your wireless router, modem, and wireless device that all your home devices connect with, okay? I can't tell you how many times I have fixed people's internet problems at someone else's house, at other businesses. I've been paid really good to go and reboot a router. And what people said was, the internet is down. The real issue was their local area network was down. Okay, and that means the little switch that plugs into the internet there. Okay, or a bigger problem, of course, it could be your internet service provider, in which case you'll have to contact them. But you can first start out by rebooting your individual device, then rebooting your router or local network device, and then possibly, is the internet service provider having trouble? Is your neighbor they have the same internet as you, and their internet is down? You can quick call to your neighbor and find out if their internet is down as well. And usually that means the internet service provider is having an outage, and you can call them. Okay. Here's another graphic that sort of explains it. So let's just say that this little part, so let's say this little network is your home, and this is your neighbor's, and there's lots of little local area networks all around. Maybe this is your school. But the internet is that backbone, that fiber optic and satellite backbone that connects the whole world. So when you're trying to figure out, oh, the internet's down, is it really the whole internet? Well, that would be sort of like saying the whole interstate system is down. How rare is it that the entire internet system, the interstate highway system is down? Pretty rare. And not only that, but when, let's say, I-26 between Charleston and Columbia is actually shut down. Well, there's other routes to get between Charleston and Columbia, aren't they? They might not be as fast, but there's other routes. And the internet is like that. And so it might be that your traffic might be routed. So if it's an actual internet problem, usually it just means that things might get a little slow, okay? But when it's a true outage, it probably means that it's either one thing. It's your internet service provider, the folks that you're buying internet from, Verizon, AT&T. Or it could be your device or the devices that you have in your home that connect it to the internet. I think I've got another picture I want to show you here too. Yeah, sometimes the problem might be that the site you're trying to connect to is itself is having a problem. Like in this picture back here, maybe the website you're trying to connect to, Netflix is more complicated than this, but you could imagine ultimately Netflix is on a variety of connected machines, right? But maybe the problem is on that side, or some news website that you're connected to. Yes, it's possible. Even Google and companies like that have network problems themselves. And so you can try connecting to other parts of the internet and see how that works as well. I wouldn't base internet outage strictly on a single website being down. So that's another thing you want to do. Try different websites before you say, oh, the internet is down. Many times, even in the past year, I've seen problems with Google. Okay? So, but then sometimes it is the internet itself can get congested. There's websites like the Internet Traffic Report that just sort of give you, well, what's the condition of the internet today? And you can look up the Internet Traffic Report, sort of see, yeah, it's not running so well today. And in fact, like during COVID-19, there's been a lot of just a lot of sluggish internet issues all over as everyone is taken to telecommuting and video conferencing. Another resource that you can use is a speed test. Now, if the speed test works, you know immediately that it's not, if the speed test works and is successful, you're pretty sure that it's not your local area network or your device, and it could be some other thing. Of course, it always could be that. Let me give you an example. There's various speed tests. I want to show you this speedtest.net, but frequently you want to use the one of your internet service provider, whether it's AT&T.com. They have a speed test. Verizon, locally here, it's Morse Broadband or Spectrum or whoever your internet service provider is. Look up their specific speed test, and that will test the internet between your home and their servers, which is very close, okay? Generally, speedtest.net also will sort of help you with that as well. Let me sort of show you this particular speed test. Oh, if you just go to Google actually and type speed test, Google will run a little speed test like that, and that's megabits per second. That's fantastic, okay? So if you get a really great speed test, probably that's not the issue. And the speed test results will, of course, depend on the kind of bandwidth that you purchase from your internet company, okay? If you have satellite internet, that's generally got, sort of some latency issues, and it can be fast and yet not do teleconferencing so good. But a great tool that everyone should, and you can get a speed test just on your phone, and you could run a quick speed test between your phone and your computer and see if there's any difference there, and that can help you sort of troubleshoot what kind of problems. But all the time I'm running a speed test on my phone, even if I'm on a guest network and I'm maybe at a coffee house and I'm just having connectivity issues. Is it the website I'm using? Is it their internet? I can quickly do a test and say, oh, this internet's really poor. I know I'm not going to be able to do Netflix or teleconferencing on this network. So that's Google, but also you can go to this speed test by Ookla Networks has this speed test, and it will usually connect to your local internet service provider to give you and you can see that result is a little better than the other results I was getting, okay? And that's because it's connecting directly to my internet service provider's server. All speed tests will give you sort of a download speeds, and these are not megabytes. If you remember this from the first quarter in the previous lecture that I gave, there are megabytes, and then there's megabits, and network speeds are always in megabits. You can watch some of the other videos from the other lectures to sort of understand the difference between megabits and megabytes. Megabytes are it's 8 times more the data, and megabits are smaller, okay? So, but the other thing to know is that you've got a download speed and you've got an upload speed. And in most cases, unless you're paying for upload speeds, normally your upload is much lower than your download speeds. And they do that to try to curb people from running servers and eating up a lot of bandwidth through running servers and stuff at their home. Okay? Well, so that is the speed test, and that's a great way for you to test your internet speeds. What does www stand for? You got a guess? You probably know it. I'll give you a choice, though. Is it A, the Wild Wild West? Is it B, Vav Vav Vav, Hebrew for 666? Or C, World Wide Web? Of course, it's World Wide Web, okay? And the Hebrew Vav 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 is not how you say 666. That's not 666. But when you think of World Wide Web, www, what I want you to remember is Wild Wild West. And in the next couple of videos that we're going to look at, I want to help you to think about computer security. And so I want you to, when you see www, I want you to think Wild Wild West. You need to have your 6-gun strapped on, and you want to be ready, because it really is that, okay? And it can be a real lawless place in which anything goes, and that means you have to be on your guard. More about that in another lecture. Oh, I want to show you this video here, which is the difference between the internet or an internet browser. Okay, do you know the difference between the internet and an internet browser? Take a look at this video.
Someone told me I need a browser on my computer. Could you install one, please?
You don't have a browser on your computer? What is that sound? Is that coming from your laptop? It's not supposed to sound... What the... What's all that crap? How long has that been? I haven't seen that one since the 90s. Oh, Jen, I have to fix this.
No, leave it. I have it how I like it.
How you like it? No, Jen, it's infected. If this was a human being, I'd shoot it in the face.
I just want you to install a browser.
That's the browser there. Look at it, that's the browser. Internet Explorer is a browser. Behind the picture of the lady. The lady's not supposed to be there.
She's only there sometimes. But what's the E? But that's a button for the internet, Roy.
The button for the internet.
Shut up, stupid geeky geek.
Jen, you don't need to be a geek to know that you need a browser to access the internet.
Yes, you do, because as soon as you know something like that, it pushes out something important, and before you know it, you're painting little figurines from Lord of the Rings.
You know what, Jen? Do whatever you want. I don't care. You want to walk around with a laptop from The Exorcist? That's just fine. It's not my problem. Our time is too valuable.
There's Moss painting Lord of the Rings action figures. Well, the main point of that video is to make a point that some people confuse the internet with the internet browser. Okay, an internet browser is specifically well, what is an internet browser? I think I've got this is part of the PowerPoint here. Let's see. Actually, what is the internet browser, and what is the difference between the World Wide Web and the internet? Is there a difference? What is the difference between the World Wide Web and the internet? Think about that a moment. Do you know the difference? Well, the World Wide Web is the part of the internet that is used for web pages. The internet is vast. We saw a picture of that whole connection. And what happens over those lines? Well, you send messaging. One of the things you do is send messages over it, isn't it? Is that the World Wide Web, a messaging like that? Or some other examples here. A credit card machine, is that part of the World Wide Web? Certainly you can use credit cards on the World Wide Web, but just the credit card machine that you go down at the grocery store and you swipe your credit card, or the gas station pump where you stick your credit card in and it's connecting to the World Wide Web. Or is that the World Wide Web, or is that just the internet? Well, that's actually just the internet. And the World Wide Web is just that part of the, it's a small part of the internet just for web pages, okay? Think about messaging. What about email? Email is actually a separate part of the internet that's not the World Wide Web. Folks that are a little older know that in the olden days you had to have an email program to even look at emails, and it was a wonderful innovation to be able to check your email on the World Wide Web. Email is really old sort of technology. What about a game server? Think about that. You're on one computer, this guy's on another, and you're just connecting to play a game. Is that the World Wide Web? No. Now, it's marvelous when you can access a web browser and watch the games that are going on that web server, but that's something different, and that's an innovation. So I want you to see the internet as a much larger thing, and the World Wide Web is a subset of the internet just for browsing web pages, okay? And along that lines then, a web browser is not technically, and even Roy in the video says that you have to have a browser to surf the internet. But you can't surf all of the internet. It's not all available. You can't surf everyone's text messages. You can't surf everyone's security cameras, right? But some of that data is available on the World Wide Web, just some of it. But a web browser is specifically that part of the internet that is used for reading .htm and .html files, okay? And a web browser, one of the differences with web browsers versus other programs is that with many programs, each program has its own proprietary sort of file type and file extension, okay? We looked at that in previous videos, like PDF is Adobe, and .doc and .docx, that's Microsoft Word. The beautiful thing about these .htm and .html files, and the thing that made the World Wide Web explode the way it did, is HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And when it was invented, it was given away to the entire computer community with the idea that it would be a universal language that everyone could use no matter what computer they were on. And these computers could talk to each other through this code, HTML. Okay, so what that means is other file types have frequently one kind of icon or program associated with them. But with HTML web browsers, there's a variety of ones, aren't there? And so what's that one? That one's, of course, Google Chrome. And that one is Apple Safari, whether on a Mac or on an iPhone or iPad. That's the one Jen was talking about in that video, Internet Explorer, or Microsoft Edge is the newest version of that. And then there's Firefox. These are different web browsers. I love this cartoon. He says, what are we? Browsers. What do we want? More speed. When do we want it? Right now. Internet Explorer. Browsers. You know what? When you're troubleshooting internet problems, honestly, sometimes your internet is slow. It could be slow because it's just your internet browser that you're using, okay? And Chrome and Firefox are much faster than Internet Explorer and Safari. But also, one of the things that can make your internet slow is when you install little plugins and toolbars and weather bugs and browsers and coupon printers. And every time you install something free like that, even something PDF Creator, PDF Printer, every time you install something inside your browser, frequently they're doing more in the background. You can even download one of those little browser extensions that's even malicious, and they're watching what you're doing, right? And there's security risks. Okay, so you got to be careful about the little toolbar plugins that you have that can sort of make your life easier in some ways, but in the end make your browser just speeds much slower. One part is a plugin of most antivirus programs. Most antivirus programs have a component that scans every single thing that you're doing in every page that comes in. Okay, Skype, you know, the little Microsoft's little teleconferencing video call program. Skype, if you don't uncheck one component of Skype, scans every web page that you look at, turns it into a clickable phone number that you can click on, and then call that person in Skype. That slows everything down, every web page that you do. Next thing you know, you got this brand new computer. You went and you installed all these fun toys and bells and whistles inside your browser, and now you got 2 or 3 balls and chains you're dragging around everywhere on the internet that you can go. And when you start up that Windows machine and it's browsing the internet so slow, and yet your phone is browsing the internet really fast, you could know, maybe it's my computer there. I got another great cartoon, though, to show you. And this is just comparing the internet browsers with weapons. So you've got Google Chrome, and you got Firefox and Opera. That's I don't know, is it still around? I think it is, which is a very interesting browser from years ago. And Safari is like an old revolver, blunderbuss kind of a weapon. And then you've got Internet Explorer here. So, hey, listen, glad you joined me for this other lecture. I look forward in the next lecture, we're going to talk about some of the structure of the internet and how understanding it can help you not get fooled by fake websites. See you then.